it going, guys? How is it going? Not really much going on at the moment in the markets, to be honest, which isn't fun. Hello everybody. EU shorts, interesting. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Matt. How is everybody doing this morning? You think the setup's clear? Hello, Danny. The setup would be clear to me if this had broken in London session. This actually broke before my trading hours, so it's less clear, which is annoying, but I guess that's life. It's 8:31 here. And obviously my trading starts at 8, so it starts from this candle here. And you technically could say that is the candle that broke the structure, but then it hasn't given me anything to enter on, which is annoying. Turn up volume, let me try. Is that better? Should be a bit louder now. Pull back to the last high and then continue bearish. Pull back to the last high? You mean here or here? Let me move this side. Because I think the whole week we have been bearish. So I don't see a reason why it wouldn't be bearish unless it obviously broke to the upside, which it kind of has done now. So the only way that we can continue higher now is, I think, deeper retest in. This pair is GBP USD. Yeah, I don't use the dollar index for confirmation, to be honest. I'd rather just look at the technicals on the pair I'm trading, because I want my trading to be as simple as possible. Someone said EU shorts. Let's see. So EU, in my mind, we're just stuck in this. We're just stuck in this range. So I wouldn't, if I was trading EU, I'd want a clear break of the lows before looking for a deeper retest. So I'd look for something like this. If you said EU shorts, I'd look for something like that. Because if you just break the lows and then we come back in, you know, I feel like you need a deeper retest. But we are, again, still stuck in a consolidation, so it's not great, to be honest. Yes, it is really messy. So you say accumulation, but I don't use any, Wyckoff or anything like that in my trading. So hopefully, and obviously gold. Again, gold has basically been consolidating the whole week. But the thing is with gold's consolidation, you can basically trade the consolidation, because you think this move top to bottom here, it's not a small move. You're getting a decent amount of pips. Whereas on an EU consolidation, this whole range is 10 pips. So a whole 10 pip range in, 10, 12 hours can be quite annoying to trade. Whereas GU, we have kind of broken out of that consolidation now this morning, which is great. After November, the price action is really messy, especially in gold. With your experience, when does the market become more stable or less volatile, clean moves? Well, I feel like it's different on every market, and every year as well, because last year I had January, February and March were my best months of the year. So I was making basically all my profit in those 3 months of the year. And before, I remember I've had good starts of the year, and then it can die down. So I feel like it's based on obviously what's going on in the world. We've had a lot of uncertainty this month already, especially with obviously Jerome Powell and the Fed. Trump's been doing or saying a lot of things, and it can definitely add some uncertainty, which makes it difficult to trade, and you can't really plan for that. But yeah. What's your risk on a 100k challenge? I'll actually get up my dashboard now, and I'm currently in a 2% drawdown, which I don't think's too bad because I know I can just trade out of it. And the good thing about my strategy is 1% risk on this challenge. So 2 losing trades is minus 2%, but then 1 win is plus 3%. So I get out of the drawdown with 1 winning trade. So you can see here, the risk is 1%. And obviously with prop firms, I always talk about it, you have to plan for you to lose more than you're actually planning on losing. So if you're losing 1.1% on every single trade, then over 10 trades, you're losing an extra 1%. So that means if I lose 10 trades in a row now, I'm not just losing 10%, I'm losing 11% or even more than 11%. But I'm only risking 1% at the moment. And this is with E8 funded. EU is going to 1.63 and drop. Let's have a look. 1.63. I think it's going to get all the way up here. I guess that could make sense. You're retesting into this zone here. But then it's got to break the consolidation to the upside and then drop all the way down. I mean, it could happen, but then you're breaking in multiple directions, I guess. But the markets have been doing that recently anyway, so it obviously wouldn't surprise me. Do you only trade GU during the London session strictly? Yes. And I only trade it until 12 p.m. as well. So would you consider trading futures? Potentially. The benefits definitely outweigh the negatives, to be honest, because you get a lot better trading conditions. The only downside for me is the rules. Some of the prop firms have quite crazy consistency rules, and I don't like trading with consistency rules, and that's why I like CFD prop firms better, because I don't have to do that. And if you don't have to have a consistency rule, it can make trading a lot easier, to be honest. Do you still use FTMO? If not, why? I like to use basically every prop firm. There are certain firms that suit my style better, and firms that limit your risk are not the best firms for my style of trading. But again, I'm not opposed to trading with any prop firm. I've bought challenges with probably every prop firm in the industry. I've had payouts from, I think, 10 prop firms or something like that, which is, quite good. Because I feel like you don't know if a prop firm is good for you unless you try it. Because everyone else is going to have different experiences, and what someone else says about a prop firm might be a different experience than what you actually get from a prop firm. How do you stay consistently profitable? I think the best way is to just constantly improve. And that will definitely help you. Because if you're just staying stagnant, the conditions will change and you'll end up going downhill, which you don't want. You just need to constantly improve, constantly journal, constantly be back testing. I was actually going to do some back testing after, if I have no trades, because I'm constantly trying to make my strategy better. I'm trying to improve every single week. What's the average amount of time you spend on a challenge? Again, this depends. If you asked me that 2 or 3 years ago, it would have been maximum 1 week. Whereas now it could take a week or a couple of weeks. Because, like I said, the prop firms have changed. The rules have changed. The risk allowance has changed. So I can't risk the same amount as I was risking before. What inspired you to start this? I think streaming is good because if you're doing just a YouTube video, it's very short, and you can't really speak about a lot of different topics. Everyone has to click on the individual topic and watch 10 minutes to find what they're looking for and answer to their question. So I feel like it's a lot easier just to do it on a live, and then everyone can answer their questions. Do you trade gold? I do not trade gold. CFDs usually have a 10% drawdown, whereas futures have a 10%, a max of 4% drawdown. Yeah, that's true. But with drawdown, I guess what you'd have to do is just scale down your risk, which I guess is annoying because you make less profits. But yeah. What do you think of EU so far this year and how it's going to be? Well, I don't actually trade EU, so that's kind of a hard question for me to answer. But overall, it seems like there's been a lot of moves and there's been a lot of trending moves. So if you are using a trend following strategy, like, you know, the breaks, retests and everything like that, then you've probably done quite well so far. But yeah, we seem to be retesting quite a lot. But again, I don't trade GU, EU even. So yeah, it's a bit tricky for me to say. Do I connect them to a copier? I used to connect my prop firms to a copier. I used to use social trader tools, and then I used Traders Connect. And the main benefits of a copier is it just removes so much time of you going in and opening up different MetaTrader accounts and entering. But the main issue that I've made plenty of videos about is the difference in price. So the price difference between the individual accounts, because they're on different brokers, can be quite annoying. And I feel like that is a negative that is worse than the positives can allow for. Because I had it where a few accounts weren't being tagged in on certain positions, and that means your whole system is out of the window. Is it the case that you eventually do so many mistakes, and when you eventually get fed up of doing those mistakes, that you one by one eliminate them? That could definitely be the case, but I feel like if you had the discipline in the first place, after seeing that mistake 2 or 3 times, then you should be able to eliminate it. You shouldn't have to do the same mistake 10, 15 times, in my opinion. And the only way you can realize if you're doing mistakes in trading is by journaling every single trade you take. Because if you're not doing that, then you can't notice the mistakes in the first place. And if you keep noticing mistakes and you keep noticing that you're losing, then that should be a stark reminder immediately that how am I going to be profitable if I keep making the same mistakes over and over again? Even if that is 2 or 3 times. Because if that's 2 or 3 times in a month period, then what's it going to be like over 6 months or 12 months? How many pips do you use for stop loss when trading GU? I use this. So I have my template and it's inputs. Here we go. So 30 pip take profit and 10 pip stop loss. Very simple. I don't like to overcomplicate it. I want it to be as simple as possible. Would you say you're more of a scalper or a swing trader? I would say neither. I used to be a swing. I guess I used to be both, because I used to do the scalping for account flips. And then I also did swing trading for just over a year. But then I've kind of gone in the middle, and now I'd say I'm an intraday trader. What's up, Dan? Do you think you're going to switch to algo trading eventually? I would say that is a good way to progress, because manual trading, you can make mistakes. Algo trading, you can't make mistakes because there's no human error involved. But the main difference is you have no control over what's going to happen. If I lose in the markets and it's by something that I've done wrong, then I can obviously say I did something wrong. But if it's from an algo, so an algo is just algorithms, so like bots or expert advisors. And the reason being, it makes things so much easier. So if you just set up an algorithm and it's profitable, obviously if it's profitable, that's very key. it will just run and keep running for you, which is good. And I guess the best situation would be if you can have them to pass prop firm challenges and make consistent profits on prop firms without eating into the drawdown or the daily drawdown or any of the rules. I think trading robots and algos are very good if you can make them profitable. And the main reason is because it just makes trading super, super easy. I've tried them in the past for FTMO, and the one thing I would say is if you are going to trade with a trading bot, do not use a martingale strategy, because it ends up it doesn't end well. I had a YouTube video in the past where I was using one of these bots, and yeah, let's just say it didn't end well, to be honest. Let me just try and find it. So this is what it ended up doing. So if you use a martingale, which I would definitely advise against you doing, it will go down, it will buy. It will keep buying, but it will keep increasing the lot size as it's going down until it eventually goes into profit. This is the kind of algo that most people get into algo trading with, and I would definitely advise against it, because as you see, it just keeps on spamming positions until it eventually goes into profit, which is not great in my opinion. What do you suggest for people who have full-time jobs and can't trade during London or US session? Is swing trading a better option than day trading? 100%. 100%. Swing trading, in my opinion, is the only way for people who have full-time jobs to trade effectively. You can trade in the morning, perhaps before work, and it obviously depends which country you're from. But I'm mainly speaking for someone from the UK. You could technically set limits before you go to work in the morning. Or you could, I guess it would be difficult in the evening, but swing trading makes it easier because you can get home in the evening and you can do your analysis. Or you can wake up in the morning before work and check the positions or check the analysis from overnight. But the downside is if you're not able to be on your phone or you're not able to be on your setup, when that alert hits during the day, then you won't be able to get into your trades. Unless you force yourself to enter in the short window that you're able to be on the charts, it will be quite difficult for you. The key is definitely multiple algos, that's correct. But also, you want to make it so there's no correlation between them though. If you have 28 algos and it will be correlating, then one down period is a very, very bad down period. And obviously you have to think, if every single one of those algos is risking 0.5% per trade and all 28 lose in one day, then you're down 14% in one day, which I guess you could have systems in place for that, but it's not a great situation. FTMO, good prop firm? Yeah, I'd say so. Which prop firm are you trading? I currently have an E8 challenge. So this is the E8 challenge that I have been trading. Average stop loss in gold. Well, when I used to trade gold, my average stop loss was, I think, 20 pips, which does seem really tight, especially compared to what we're seeing now. But that's just what used to work for me at the time, and I was quite profitable doing that as well, which was great. If you're able to make 7 to 8% per month on swing trading, then that's amazing. I'd love to make 8% per month, to be honest. How many trades do you aim for in a month? I don't aim for any amount, to be honest. I don't think it really matters how many trades I'm taking. It could be 8 trades, it could be 10 trades, it could be 5 trades. It doesn't really matter. Would you ever invent your own trading robot? I would, yes. And I have coded one of my strategies for New York session, which I'm still working on. And hopefully it ends up profitable and all the stats are working out correctly. But at the moment, the drawdown is just too high for me to go live with it. And obviously I'm very particular with the drawdown and the return and everything, so I want that to be perfect before I take that live. Going to attempt a 10k challenge in 2 weeks. Wish me luck. Good luck. It's good that you're not starting right in the deep end at 200k, for example, like a lot of people do, because that usually ends up as a mistake. Which lot size should I use on my 10k account trading US30 and GU? Well, the issue with that question is you should know that. You should know your lot size based on your account size, based on your stop loss size, based on your risk. For me, if I have a 10 pip stop loss and I want to risk 1%, I use 10 lots, which is obviously $1,000 risk, which would be that 1%. What time frame? 15 minute always. If you had the opportunity to change anything in the trading industry, what would it be? I would remove the lifestyle content completely, to be honest, because lifestyle content gets people in the industry for the completely wrong reason. And then they'll try and make it work in trading for themselves, only caring about reaching that trading lifestyle as soon as possible. And if you know the stats behind trading success, then yeah, it's not a high number of people who actually make it and make it consistently successful in the long term. But if those same people went in without that unrealistic expectation of trading by the beach within 6 months of even hearing about Forex, and instead they were focusing on developing a strategy, learning how to backtest, learning how to develop their edge, then they'd probably be a lot more profitable. Because if you're just focusing on getting as much money as quickly as possible, then you're not focusing on the actual aspect of trading. And if you're not doing that, then I don't see how you'd ever be able to improve, to be honest. Good morning from South Africa. Looks like we're about to get some momentum. Well, I hope so, to be honest. We haven't really been doing anything so far this morning. What's that painting in the top right corner? If you're on about this one or this one, I'm not sure. But I actually painted both of those. So, you know, they were my first two paintings, so I had to hang them. That's just how it goes. Yeah, this one is just a portrait of some man, and yeah, I painted it, so I had to go in the office. Is scalping the same as gambling? It depends. It's only the same as gambling if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a system in place, then it probably is gambling. But I guess some people say gambling isn't really gambling because they're trading with a plan, like they're basically trading. But I guess it's how you do it. Because intraday trading could be gambling. Swing trading could be gambling if you don't have a clue what you're doing. I trade the 1 minute and the 30 second. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how that's possible. I don't even, like, trading the 30 second like this, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I could never imagine sneezing and missing a trade. It just wouldn't make sense to me. And you'd have to calculate everything super, super quickly, which I don't want to do. I don't want my trading to be a rush. I want it to be, okay, I have my setup. Okay, I can now do my analysis. I can set my limit. I can set my alerts, and everything's at a nice, like, even pace. I don't want it to be hectic. Morning from Zimbabwe. Jeez, got the whole of Africa in here. The market is definitely dead. That's correct. Too much noise on the 1 minute and 30 seconds. I can definitely agree with that. But a lot of people say that the market's a fractal, so it doesn't matter if you're trading on the 1 hour or the 15 second. But I definitely think the higher the time frame, the more solid the analysis will be. That's what I found from my testing, and the 4 hour seems to hold really well compared to even the 30-minute or the 15-minute. But it makes it a lot more difficult. Overall return for 2025. The return in the Telegram group was 20.5%, which was pretty good. I swear trading London is way harder than New York because price just doesn't move. Well, that is definitely the case sometimes. Sometimes there is a lot of momentum in New York and you'll get big moves, a lot of trending markets, but London can be quite sideways, especially if Asia's been sideways. A lot of the times it will just stay sideways. But sometimes you get the best breaks, you get the best moves that then carry over into New York. So it's kind of hit or miss. And you have to think about it. In New York, there's usually more news than there is in London session. So you always have to deal with that. So I can trade a full trade before NFP, before CPI, before all of these news events, and you can still get trades in, which is quite good in my opinion. Have you used Equity Edge prop firm? I have not. I've used most prop firms, but some I haven't used. The main reason why I don't use some firms is their rules just don't suit my style of trading. So no matter how good the offer is, no matter how good their conditions are, if it just doesn't suit my trading, then I won't purchase, because I think it's just a waste of time for me to take. And I want to give myself the best chance possible of actually passing. My top 3 prop firms. It would have to be, FTMO would have to be up there because they're just probably the best in the industry and they've always remained the best in the industry, which is great. It's sad that True Forex funds are no longer around because they were my favorite. But yeah, I don't know. You still look 12. Great. How's Mac? You spoke to him recently. Of course, Mac's great. I think he's back trading this week, which I feel bad because it hasn't really been a good week in the markets. How do you manage spread on such low time frames? Oh, that wasn't to me, I don't think. Equity Edge is cheapest in the industry and they're based in London. But again, being cheap doesn't mean being good. That's not how it works in prop firms. Because I've purchased challenges for £100 and it's ended up being terrible. When I passed both phases and then they go down. Which prop firm do you miss that shut down? It was True Forex funds. They were the best firm that I've ever used. Best spread, best executions, best payout time, best support system. Everything was just amazing, which is why I was shocked when they shut down. Yeah, Mac's a good guy. Everyone go check out Mac. Yeah, I do have low drawdown, which is good, but that's because I don't take as many setups as some people. If you think about it and you're taking 50 trades in a year, your drawdown's probably going to be higher than someone taking 20 trades in a year. Because if you have the same win rate, but you take more trades, then the likelihood of you losing more is higher, obviously. Are you taking a live trade today? Well, it's not looking too likely at the moment, to be honest, because we don't have anything to go off. But there's obviously always potential. There's always potential. But these markets, as you can see, there's just absolutely nothing going on. Which, yeah, it's not good. What got you into trading? Well, I'm not going to lie, I did get into trading I was drawn in by the lifestyle of trading. And then I was able to realize quite quickly after a month or two that that's not the way to trade. Then once I realized that was then when I was able to start learning and developing the right skill set. But I definitely got in through the wrong ways. Is 13 to 17% per year good for one pair? That's good, yeah. Most people think that, 10%, 20% profit is bad in a year, but that's because they're looking at it from a small account aspect. If you make 20% in a year, for example, or even 15% in a year, and you're trading a 50k account, it's not going to be a massive amount of profit. It's going to be what, 7.5k profit or something like that. But then on a 100k account, you're making 15k. And on a 500k account, you're making 75k. On $1 million account, you're making 175k or 115k. Depends on obviously how much you make. So you can make a lot of profit. At that point, you just have to focus on scaling your capital. That is the main reason why people fail. They try to scale their profits instead of scaling their capital. But if you scale your capital, your profits will scale just as a result, which is a great thing in trading. 15 to 25% of the year is very good. That's very true. Would you ever own a prop firm? I was actually looking to do that many years ago, but in my opinion, the numbers just don't work out as well as I'd have liked. If it was the situation where there was, well, the way that I was actually looking at it was quite simple. I know people that are really, really good and they could probably bankrupt me as a prop firm. I've also seen other people get prop firm payouts in the 7 figures. And imagine you start a prop firm and then you get 5 of those people sign up and start trading. That must be the scariest experience ever as a prop firm owner. So that's why I would never do it. Why must we reinvest profits for maximum safety? Well, the reason being is diversification. If you're only investing profits back into the prop firms or back into trading, then bad periods in the markets will be bad periods for your whole portfolio. Whereas if you diversify perhaps into index funds, into property, into bonds, stocks, whatever you want to get into, then you could be down in a month in the markets, but then your investments could be up. So then it can cancel out, which I think that's the best way to have it. And let's say you have a good year, stocks are having a good year, property's having a good year, boom, you're making a hell of a lot of profit compared to, let's say, if you were doing it without diversifying. And it's always good to reinvest into the thing that's making you money. So in this case, it would be prop firms, obviously. But there's also bad side to that as well. The more you invest into prop firms, the more you have a chance of risking and losing. And the more you lose, the more painful it is, obviously. Yes, it was good to see you, FX Bashi. Do you solely trade on prop firm or you have your own account with your own money? I would never solely trade prop firms and I would never solely trade personal capital. The main reason, there's just more risk. The more you put in to one, the more you're going to make profit, but then there's more at risk. So if you go 90% into prop firms and you lose that, then you're left with 10%. So you've gone all into one, or virtually all into one, and then you've got a massive risk that if that goes down, then you've only got that 10% of capital left. Whereas if you go 90% into personal, then that's better, because the likelihood of you blowing a personal account is very, very hard, and it's very, very slim. So I would always say personal capital is better than prop firm capital once you're at a good enough stage. Because if you're at the stage where you don't have enough money in a personal account to, let's say, trade full time, if you do lose your prop firm accounts, then prop firms should be your focus and you should be focusing on growing those first. But that is where you have to realize that, okay, I've had a 10k payout. Do I go spend that? Do I go waste that money? Or do I reinvest that into personal capital? And if I'm profitable, then it shouldn't be a hard decision at all. If you know you can make money, then it should be super easy to think, oh, well, maybe out of this 10k, I should invest 3k or 2.5k into a personal account and then use that to scale. Perhaps another 1k out of that 10k to reinvest into a couple more prop firm challenges. That's how you should look at it. And obviously you should save money as well and not reinvest it, because who knows what's going to happen. You could lose all of your accounts at once and it could be a very bad situation. Or even the prop firm you're trading could shut down. Very bad. Lots of gems here, take notes. That's very true. Get your notepads out, guys. From your experience, what's the longest period you've had a prop firm without blowing it? It depends, because nowadays you get a payout every 2 weeks. Back in the day, you used to get a payout every 30 days. So it was a lot harder to keep an account nowadays, because you're able to make so much more profit and you're able to rinse prop firms more in a short period of time. Whereas before you weren't able to do that. So if you're only getting 12 payouts in a year, then it's a lot harder. Whereas if you're getting 24 payouts in a year, then it's definitely a lot easier. But I've had 4 or 5 payouts with one account, which is great, obviously. The only thing I really care about with prop firms is making more from payouts than I've had in challenge fees. That's the only thing that really matters. Home tour, definitely not. Are you looking to trade today? I mean, I guess we'll see. I never go into a day thinking I'm going to trade today. I go into the day thinking, will I have a trade today? And if I don't, then I don't care. And if I do, then that's great. But I don't try and force anything. I just trade based on, am I able to execute on my plan? And if I'm not, then I just leave it. Do you copy trade your prop firm challenge? At the moment, no. At the moment, I'm just trading them individual accounts, and that's basically it. Did you trade this week? I did trade this week. And I'm actually down this week, which is not great, but there's not really anything we can do about that, to be honest. Just trading the plan, and the plan didn't work this week, clearly, which I'm okay with. That's fine. What watch will you get next? I'm not sure. I don't know if I will purchase another watch, to be honest. The main reason is because investments are better elsewhere at the moment. That's just as simple as it is, really. Index funds are outperforming watches. There was that, I think, 1 or 2 year period where watches were performing really well, but now everything is just destroying them. So I feel like I'm better off putting my money elsewhere rather than in watches. Let me rephrase. Do you see any potential setups? Not at the moment, to be honest. There's not really much going on. As you can probably see, we have GU and we have EU, where it's just consolidation. And it's not great, to be honest. It's not a great situation. What time frame are you on the charts right now? 15 minute. If you see my videos, if you see any of me live trading, then it'll always be the 15-minute time frame. That's just the only one that I trade. Do you do videos of trading when you go abroad? Well, usually if I'm on holiday or doing anything away from the charts, I just won't trade, because I always talk in my videos about having 100% focus. And if I'm not 100% focused myself, then how am I going to trade effectively? It just isn't really going to happen. Imagine you're trying to enjoy your holiday that you've paid your hard-earned money on, and you have a different time zone, and you're trying to manage positions, and you only have your phone with you. It can be a very difficult situation, which I don't really want to try and deal with. I have $50. Which prop firm should I choose? You should probably get a job instead of trying to focus on prop firms, to be honest, because if you only have $50, then there's no point. It's just the truth. There's no point. It's just too much of a risk. What is your trade frequency in a week? 1 or 2, sometimes maybe even 3, and that's fine.
What's your time window? 8 till 12. So 8 a.m. UK time till 12 p.m. Very simple. Been a bad week this week. It definitely has been a bad week this week, which is not great because usually I like to start the year on a massive high, but unfortunately we haven't been able to do that so far, which is annoying, but that's fine. What do you think about gold? I think gold's a great pair. I think many people don't like gold because they over risk on gold. You can't trade gold like you can GU or like you trade EU. It's a completely different ball game. And the people that understand this are able to adjust their risk and adjust their volatility preferences, and they're able to make good profits. The people that try and trade it the same as everything else usually get destroyed. And they usually aren't trading that same account in a few months' time. What's the minimum I should start with for a prop firm? Well, I think you should start with a 10k account because the whole process of trading with a prop firm is different from trading normal capital or different from trading a demo account. Obviously, they are demo accounts, but the main difference is you have rules that you can't break. And you also have the pressure, the emotional pressure of having to make a certain amount in a certain manner, of no news trading, risk rules, drawdown rules, weekend rules, overnight holding rules. There's so many different rules, and it's better to master those rules on a small account when the emotional effect isn't going to be as high as if it was a 100k or 200k account with numbers that you've never seen before. If you've never seen people online, or if you have seen people online trade like that, it doesn't mean that you're able to exactly replicate those results. So you have to go into it and work your way up. So you can go 10k, 25, 50, 100, 200, and just use the profits from the 10 to go to 25. The 25k profits to go to 50, 50k to go to 100k, and scale up like that, because that will make it a lot easier for you. And also in your mind, you'll know that your trading is risk-free at that point. Because if you're purchasing that 100k with profits from the 50, and you still have that 50, so it's just risk-free. I have a 25k account and I'm 4% in drawdown. What would you suggest for me? Just trade the plan. If you should be going into live markets knowing the potential for your drawdown, knowing how much you could possibly lose in one streak. So a 4% drawdown shouldn't be a surprise to you. The only thing that should be a surprise is if in all of your data you've never had a 4% drawdown. That's when it should be a surprise, and that's when you should be, reconsidering. That's true, Danny boy. That's very true. What prop firm rule that you dislike and should be avoided? That's a tricky one because I hate a lot of prop firm rules, to be honest. I think the maximum risk per trade rule is unbelievably stupid. The main reason is because they're allowing you to have a 5% daily drawdown, but then they're limiting your risk per trade. In my eyes, the easy way to sort that out is to lower the daily drawdown. If you lower the daily drawdown, people wouldn't complain about a max risk rule or risk per trade rule. But if I'm able to lose 5% in a day, I can only lose 1% in a trade, then I'm not able to use my full drawdown, which is very, very annoying. On the challenge, you can risk more. See, that's what you'd think, but many firms limit it at 1.5 or 2% now. Some firms even 1% risk because they just hate people that are using higher risk in passing now. So I've failed a challenge for risking 1.5%. And there's not really anything I can do about that. FTMO have been limiting people to 1%, just based on what I've seen on Twitter and emails from FTMO to people. I don't know how true that is, but that's just from what I've seen. I have two 200k accounts, so I only trade A+ setups. That's a very good way of doing it. FTMO. Have I been warned by FTMO? I haven't. When I was trading FTMO with high risk, that was 2022, and I think into 2023 perhaps, then it was basically okay back then, and it was fine. I passed challenges, I had payouts, and it was fine. But on the funded accounts of FTMO, I only had, I think, 3% payouts, so it wasn't like massive profits. So if I show you here, FTMO payouts, this was my 2023. You'll see every payout was the same size. So 6K, 6K, 6K. And the reason they were the same size is because 200K account, let's say, and I'm risking 1% and a 1 to 3 risk to reward. That means I'm making 6K profit. Have you ever traded with lower leverage like 1 to 50? Of course. My personal accounts have always been 1 to 30 leverage, because in the UK, if a broker is FCA regulated, then they only allow you to use 1 to 30. And I've never had an issue. I can risk 1%. I can trade exactly as I would normally trade. Which prop firm do you suggest starting out with? This is tricky because good prop firms to start out with are usually expensive. And the reason they're expensive, and the reason you want to go for an expensive one, is because you have the highest chance of being paid out. And as a beginner, you don't want to go through phase 1, go through phase 2, get to the funded stage, make profits, and then not get paid out, because the emotional effect on that will probably be worse than blowing a prop firm challenge. And that's just from experience. And I've been with prop firms in my early years that have ended quite badly, where I passed phase 1, passed phase 2. My first prop firm, in fact, was a 25K account. And I got to payout, which was lucky, but it was only 25% of what I actually made. And then they shut down. Very frustrating experience. But if you go for one like FTMO, you're obviously paying more, it's harder to pass, but the likelihood of you being paid out is very high. Why are emotions high when you're on a real account as a trader? The main reason is because it's real money. You know that money in that account you've worked hard for. You spent hours at a job working for that money. So it's going to feel a lot harder to trade that than if you were trading a normal account, for example. That's just how it's going to be. If you make 10%, will they start kicking up a fuss and give you a warning? I wouldn't say so, because I've seen people get large FTMO payouts. I'm assuming you're talking about FTMO. If I just look on their website right now, they probably have people making over 10% on their leaderboards, to be honest. And if people on their leaderboards are making more than 10%, then I don't know why they'd not like you to make more than 10%, obviously. Yeah, on their leaderboards right now, people are making 40%, 70%, 30%, 60%, 30%, 14%. So I don't really think that would be an issue. I guess the only issue prop firms have is the risk you're using to make that return. So if you have super high risk and you're risking your whole daily drawdown on every trade, then they see that as all-in trading, which they don't like at all. What do you think about regulations in the UK? Many entrepreneurs are leaving. Do you plan to move somewhere else so the rules are better? It doesn't really affect me too much, to be honest, in the industry, obviously the trading industry. But I definitely don't think the UK is going in the right direction with regulations and rules for businesses. And that is why, a record number, I think 16,500 millionaires left last year alone, which is quite bad. Show your screen. There's nothing to see, unfortunately, because there's no trades. I'm new to prop firm trading, trying to pass the free FTMO challenge. I've achieved the challenges, but still 12 days remaining. Should I trade or keep quiet? Well, if you have passed, then why trade? It's very simple. I don't feel like trading for no reason is ever a good idea. Limited company for tax or not. Again, that depends on how much money you're making, depends on your other income and everything. The best thing to do, people always ask me about tax, but I'm not an accountant. I don't have any tax experience. I pay somebody to do my tax for me, and I'm not a tax expert, unfortunately, so I can't advise. And also another thing, people always say, do a video on tax, do a video on this or that. But if only less than half of my audience is from the UK, half the people that watch the videos, the tax video won't even be relevant to them at all. So it's not ideal. I like to make videos and I like to make content about parts of trading or aspects of it that will be helpful to everybody watching. And tax videos and UK specific videos just won't do that. Do you still trade on Wednesdays only? I don't remember ever trading on Wednesdays only, to be honest. I've always traded basically every day. It's 3 a.m. in Texas. What time is it for you? It is 9:21 a.m. in the UK. And you'll notice that behind me, there is the red light behind the bookshelf. And unfortunately, that is signifying a losing week so far. It's not great. It's not great. So once you see that red light, you know the week has been rough. Spread accounts are tax-free in the UK. Yes, but prop firm profits are taxed because you're technically like a freelancer, I think. Basically, like you're working for the company. What life lessons have you learned through trading? I'd say the main one is discipline. You have to be super disciplined to make it in trading. People don't understand how disciplined you have to be. It's yeah. I remember you saying Wednesdays were your most profitable days. Yeah, that might be the case, but that doesn't mean I'd only trade the most profitable days, because you know, you can have perhaps 90% of your profit on one day, and that's great. But if 10% of your profit, you don't just want to throw that away. You want to trade every day, basically. Will you be streaming on a regular basis from now on? I hope so. I mean, people seem to be enjoying it. I also stream on Twitch as well. And yeah, I think it's great. I actually tried to stream on YouTube yesterday, but it wasn't letting me for some reason. But obviously, Twitch will be a brand new audience. And YouTube, I obviously have a lot of subscribers already. So that's why there's going to be more people on the YouTube stream, which is great. You still only trade GU. That is correct. Hello, everybody. Why do so many FX traders switch to futures? Because it's easier. It's easier to trade futures because of the spread, the commission, everything's just cheaper. And if you're spending less to actually trade, then you're going to make more profits. What made you keep going with trading even though it's so hard? I think because I noticed the potential. And if you know the potential, then you just have to do everything you can to get to that potential. If I know it's possible to make $1 million a year with prop firms, and if I'm only making 20k per year, I'm obviously going to work a hell of a lot harder to reach the potential. And in trading, there is an unlimited potential. So you can put in however much work you want, and you can always do more. You can always make more, which is what I like about trading. And you are rewarded for the amount of work and effort you put in. People say that, more work doesn't equal more profits in trading, or more trading doesn't equal more profits. I think more trading definitely doesn't equal more profits, but the work you put in behind the scenes when you're not actually executing in the markets, you can make yourself more money, which is great. Will you explain your full strategy on live if you take a trade? Well, I explained fully in the mentorship, which you guys can go check out. But if I'm obviously in a trade, then I'll speak roughly what's going on through the trade, of course. I'm off to the gym. Nice one, Mr. Wills. Good luck at the gym, Sam. We need more lives. That's definitely the plan. It's definitely the plan. People seem to be enjoying it, which is great. It's always great. Unfortunately, we haven't actually had any live trading because the markets haven't been playing ball. You know, if you look, we haven't had any setup opportunities. GU's been consolidating, EU's been consolidating, gold's been consolidating. Every pair has basically just been consolidating this morning and last night. And for us as traders, that's not a great situation because there's no entry opportunities. I know I can't enter, but there's nothing to give me an entry. It's very annoying. Very, very annoying. But that's fine. Do you trade New York session as well? I do not. I do not currently. I used to trade London and New York. And at one point, I think I was just trading New York. But now I just trade London. For me, it's the most profitable. And it sets up nicely for how I like to spend my day. I want to wake up in the morning, trade for a few hours, and then do whatever I want after that. Because that's all that really matters. Whereas if you're trying to trade all day, it can be really difficult. Because imagine you start trading at 8 a.m. and you could potentially get a setup all the way until 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. That whole time, you have to be focused, ready for a trade to be active. And if that's not the case, then you shouldn't trade all day. You shouldn't trade every session. And perhaps you're even trading Tokyo session as well. That makes it even more difficult. Would love to see you place live trades. Well, that would definitely be the goal if we had any setups, that is. What do you think of ORB trading? I have no clue what that is. Do you use ICT? Definitely not. I'm not a member of their cult. What got you to sit at the desk all day long waiting for a setup? I feel not being there is stopping me from being successful, but part of me is worried. You don't need to be sat at the desk all day. Like I was just talking about trading for a few hours a day. If you limit your trading hours, then it limits the amount of time you have to have 100% focus for. If you only have to be 100% focused for 3 hours or 4 hours in a day, then it's a lot easier than 10 hours or 12 hours. So you don't actually have to be, sat at the charts focused all day, which makes it a lot easier. Do you use any fundamentals? I do not. I trade news releases, but that's based on full data. I wouldn't go and start trading a news release based on a fundamental release because you have to think about it. By the time you're getting the information, it's usually too late. And you could obviously trade overall based on fundamentals, like the bias against the pound and everything like this. But I think it's just easier using data because data doesn't lie. Data does not lie. And you see the most successful hedge fund in history, Renaissance Technologies, they used data. They used algorithms. They hired people that weren't in finance to just crunch the numbers. Over 100 trades, you will make money if your system is profitable. Well, I'd like to think that's the case, yeah. Who is better, trading gold daily or seeing other charts in other pairs? It doesn't, the time frame or the pair doesn't determine whether someone's going to be more profitable than someone else. That's just not how trading works. You could trade the 1 minute time frame on 10 different pairs and be profitable, or even more profitable than somebody trading the 1 hour on one pair. That's just how it is. What do you think about ICT? I think that if someone is claiming to have been kidnapped to not reveal the market secrets, then you should probably reconsider anything else they've told you, to be honest. That's just the way that I see it. I don't really think that's a realistic story or person you want to be learning from. You know, obviously his methods could work and it could work for you, but yeah, it just seems a bit dodgy to me, to be honest. And there's no bank that's hunting your stop losses. That's a load of rubbish. If you think that they're looking at, you know, Kevin from Kent, his stop loss on his 100k funded account, when there's actually no real money on a funded account, and you're claiming to be stop hunted, make that make sense, because it doesn't make sense to me. Where is the chart? There's nothing to see, to be honest. You know, you can see the chart. There's the chart, but there's nothing going on. There's absolutely nothing going on any pair. EU, GU, gold, absolutely nothing. Which is typical. Fridays used to be amazing days, but now they seem to have died down a bit, to be honest. They're hunting my sim stop losses. Yeah, that's what people think, though, to be honest. They think that they are actually being targeted, which I don't think how they're thinking that. Because why would these banks that are targeting them, or they claim to have been targeted, target their £10 stop loss or their £100 stop loss? They couldn't care less about that. Well, do you not find London sessions so boring? It definitely can be very boring. That is definitely true. But I feel like every trading session can be boring, because it only has to be exciting a few times. And trading is boring in the first place anyway. Trading is super boring. You know, I wish it was exciting, but it is boring. I used to be delusional because I've always had my stop loss set places where everybody would set them. Now I set them at places that make 0 sense and they barely get hit. But, you know, you don't just want to set them in random places, because, you know, you could get stopped out and then it could go straight to your take profit if it's in a random place. Most people should just place stop losses based on structure. And obviously, if you've got it right in a support zone or right in a resistance zone, then the likelihood of that getting hit is probably quite high. You know, that's just based on liquidity and order flow. I don't mean ICT as a person, I meant the esteem. Well, I mean, I don't really have an opinion, to be honest. I think if you're trading all of the ICT stuff, then it makes trading way too complicated, because they're using all this accumulation, these 5 minute zones, 1 minute zones. I've even seen people go on a 30-second time frame and go for 1 to 150 risk to rewards. It's not great trading, to be honest. But I guess the only positive with those is you win one and then you're set for the year. Is it better to trade 2 prop firms simultaneously, or this account today and the other tomorrow? That depends. It depends on your win rate and how you're trading it. If you're trading with low risk and you're not going anywhere near the drawdowns, and you've basically accounted for every bad situation and you only want to pass this one, then you could trade them together. But if you're trading them normally and just with normal risk and everything, then rotating the account, so one on one trade, one on another trade or another day, then that can definitely be the best way to split your risk. And the likelihood of you blowing those accounts, if you're trading them on different days and different trades, is very slim. It's very, very slim. What's your system so I can learn it? I have to check out the mentorship for that, unfortunately. But it's just London, breaks, retests. But obviously not just a normal break retest of support and resistance, a bit more. What was your aha moment in trading that you said you finally made it? It was probably my first prop firm payout, to be honest, because prop firms back in 2020 and 2021, it did seem like quite an outrageous thing. Okay, so I can pay this much, then I can get access to this much capital and get an 80% profit split. It did seem quite outrageous at the time. But then once you actually realize that, oh, this is quite a good experience. Once you pass phase 1, pass phase 2, and then you actually get a payout, it does seem real. It does seem like the options now are endless, and your expectations are definitely raised at that point. And once you get a payout from a prop firm, I feel like that's when your whole trading career changes. What did you buy with your first payout? I didn't buy anything. My first payout was very small. I think it was $250. I made more profits, but the firm shut down and they said, oh, we're only going to give you 25% of any profits you've made. So that's, yeah, it's unfortunate. But I didn't really spend any of my prop firm profits, to be honest. I just reinvest. When should you risk 1% or 0.5%? It depends on so many different factors. It depends on your drawdown. It depends on the drawdown for the prop firm, so the drawdown you're allowed. It depends on if you're in profit, if you're in drawdown or not. Most people would be better off risking 0.5% if they're not looking to fail at all. But risking 1% is obviously the industry standard, and that's why prop firms will limit people to 1% because it's just like the normal amount. But I know a lot of people that are capable of losing a prop firm challenge with 1% risk. Whereas if you half your risk, you have double the amount of chances to fail. But also the downside is you have to make double the profits to pass. But if you keep hitting the drawdown, then that probably is the best bet for you. Are you long or short GU? I am nothing on GU at the moment, to be honest. We seem to be breaking to the upside right now, but there's no trade for me. And we're breaking to the upside. We've broken out of the high here. But again, there's been no trade for me. So I've just been sitting back and watching what's happened, to be honest. I don't want to force anything. EU's the same, gold's the same. Gold's actually pushing to the downside now, which is quite interesting. But GU, yeah, we haven't really had anything going on, which is unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Because I wanted to have some trades, hopefully, for the live trading. We can still have a pullback for entry. That is true, but it hasn't really given us a good break for a pullback, to be honest. I mean, we could pull back a bit. We could pull back to this sort of area. Something like this. And obviously it stops below this low here in this area. This could be a potential area to trade from. But yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest. Over the past few days, it's been break structure in one direction. Well, actually, let me show you. It's been breaking structure like this, and then also just rallying down, which is, it's not an ideal situation. Like here, we broke to the upside, then we melted. Broke to the upside, then melted. Exact same thing, that 3 candle push. Same thing here, the 3 candle push up, break a structure, and then just melted to the downside. So that obviously could be the situation, but I guess the only way to find out is to just wait and see. Something like this could be a nice little retest in that area, but yeah, I guess only time will tell if that is going to happen, and we will have to wait and see. Speech in 20 minutes. Let's see what speech that is. I didn't think it was anything major. I think I checked yesterday, but I don't know what speech you're on about, to be honest. FX Street is not showing any speeches. What do you think of Alpha Capital? I had 4 payouts from them last year and it was a pretty good experience, to be honest. The only downside is you have to have a consistency rule on your first payout. So I had to trade for 5 minimum days before requesting a payout, which is annoying. But I managed to do that, which was fine. Forex Factory. Let me take a look. That is true. That is true. It is showing. Let me check the prop firm news. So it is the 16th. See, the prop firm calendar and FX Street are not showing any news events, but Forex Factory is showing a news event, which is very, very odd, to be honest. Look at this. So you can see news event on this one. No event. No news event here. FX Street. No news event. Which is very odd. Very odd. But obviously we have it here. What type of investing do you encourage your prop fund profits? Well, I would always choose index funds. Index funds are always a good place to put your money. You know, if we look on the charts, this is the index fund that I invest in, and ignore the crazy candles. But you can see long term, it's just been unbelievable. You know, if we look the last, you know, let's say 10 years or so, we've returned a crazy amount. Now, even the last year, if we can go on yearly candles, 12-month candles, there we go. So even last year, crazy return. This year we're up. You know, it's been very, very profitable. You know, a 500% return in what's that, 12 years? Can't really complain with that, to be honest. And it will outperform any watch or any property, in my opinion. But you don't want to look at it on the lower time frames. And this drop here was when Trump was crashing the market. And then since then we have recovered around 40%, which is just unbelievable. And when it was dropping, I was actually buying more because I always keep cash set aside to invest. So if I'm investing consistently all the way up and then price crashes, then I'll just keep investing. And I keep cash set aside for if we do have these big drops. So if we do have a drop of 20% or whatever the drop was from the absolute peak, if we look around 24%, then I'm able to put in more cash. But when we do get that rebound, then I'm able to capitalize on that big move. Because with dollar cost averaging, you need to make the most of these drops or crashes. People always say the market's crashing and time to take your money out. But I think that's the time to get in. When everyone else is scared, they're taking their money out, the markets are dropping 10, 20%. That's when people make the most gains. And then you're also able to get your average price lower and lower. If you're buying all the way up and your average price is increasing, then when it crashes, you're able to get your average price hopefully lower and lower, especially if you're putting in lump sums, that is, as well. So I'll quickly check GU here. Nothing going on. What do you look for before putting your order to break even? I never actually go break even. People always find it surprising, but I just don't like the idea of going to break even, to be honest. What broker do you use for personal account? I use Admiral and Axie. They're both FCA regulated, and I'm not affiliated. I don't get paid to say that, but they're regulated, so I feel like I'm safe putting my money with them. If they weren't regulated, I wouldn't use them. The only time I'd use an unregulated broker, I use IC Markets. They obviously have regulation, but they have it where you can use higher leverage, is when I'm doing account flips. So I'm only putting 10, 20, 30 pounds into an account. I don't need the same type of confidence but with the regulation that I would if I was putting in my main amount of capital on a main account, because it's just not enough capital. If I lose £20, it's not the end of the world. But if I lose tens of thousands, it is a very bad situation. Can you have multiple MT5s in the same PC for different firms? You definitely can. I have multiple different terminals. Usually the way to do that is you go on your prop firm that you're trading with. You can download like an FTMO MT5. You can download, I have an Admiral MT5. I have an Axie MT5. So I have multiple different ones, which is good. What time frame are you on with GBP USD? 15-minute always. Always the 15-minute time frame. What platform do you use to invest, like Trading 212? I use Vanguard, I use Moneybox, and I use Invest Engine. Those are the three that I use. In my opinion, they are better than Trading 212. They look nicer. Obviously, it doesn't really matter that much, but I like to go on an app that looks nice. The first trade I ever took for, Forex or anything was on Trading 212, which I can't imagine now trading Forex on Trading 212, but that is the first time I did it. My first demo account was on Trading 212. I did 1 hour. Am I cooked for that? No, your time frame doesn't really matter, to be honest. It doesn't determine whether you're going to be profitable or not. That's just how it is. You can make money on any time frame. How to connect FTMO to TradingView. I don't know if FTMO have the connection with TradingView or not, because many firms you can connect. But if we're looking here, these are the firms you can connect. So I don't know how many of these are prop firms. I can't see FTMO anywhere, to be honest. I might be missing it, but if any of your prop firms use these brokers, then you probably can connect it. I know some use 8cap, Think Markets obviously. Then you should be able to connect your prop firm account. And that would be the ideal situation, because if you've done your analysis and you've done all your testing on TradingView, then it's a really easy situation to then execute on TradingView. Because if you're executing right now, like a market execution here, then you have no difference in price, you have no difference in anything. Everything you're seeing is what's happening on TradingView. So it makes your trading very accurate. And I'd say it's the most accurate it could possibly be. Only beaten by the fact that if you do your testing on MetaTrader, I guess, because that would technically be more accurate. Greetings from Morocco. How's it going in Morocco? What pairs do you trade now? I'm only trading GBP USD. On a 60k Fivers prop firm account, how much would you risk per day? I mean, I risk 1% per trade. I only have one trade per day, so I'd only risk 1%. But that's my trading. How many trades you take per day and the risk you use is individual to you. I can't tell you to risk a certain amount because I don't know how many trades you're taking. I don't know anything about your trading, which makes it hard for me to say, do this or do that. What do you think of Fivers? I've never used them, to be honest. I've seen people talk about them a lot, and I think people talk about them a lot. It's the same conversation as FTMO. They've been in the industry for a very long time. They are probably, I think they've been in the industry for the longest, which is quite good. And firms that have been in the industry a long time, they've had a good amount of time to build up their reputation. If a firm's only been out for 1 month, they can't build a solid reputation. Whereas a firm that's been active for 5 years, 10 years, I think like the Fivers and FTMO, then they're able to build that reputation. So people, and they think of prop firms, will always think of FTMO, and they always think of Fivers or these firms that have been around for a long time. What do you think about Vantage for personal accounts? The one thing I'll say about personal accounts, if they are FCA regulated, then there's no issue. That's the only thing that I would always say. But this only applies for UK customers, because I don't think that other countries can use FCA regulated brokers. I'm not sure, to be honest. But are you going to change the 1 to 3 risk to reward 10 pip SL, since you talked about increasing the RR in the last video? I'm not looking to change anything at the moment, to be honest. It's been working well. I haven't really had any issues. I'm still making profit, so that's all I'm really caring about right now. Do you think a 1.23 profit factor is enough to make a living? Commissions and slippage, 4-year back test, and 984 trades. You say making a living, but how much capital do you have? If you only have 10k to trade with, then you probably can't make a living. If you have 1 million capital, then you probably can make a living. It depends, obviously. I don't know your expenses. I don't know how much of an emergency fund you have. I don't know how much time you're spending at work currently. I don't know anything about your situation, so it's hard for me to say whether you can make a living out of that or not. It makes it quite difficult. Have you used an overseas broker? I don't think so. I think IC Markets are overseas, or they have part of their brokers overseas. Majority of brokers, they'll have an overseas division and I'll have a regulated division. So the overseas version, you can use that higher leverage, that 1 to 500, but then their regulated section is always that 1 to 30. I'm lost in the lower time frames, or if I turn into the long time frames, I get low setups. Again, this is the sacrifice you have to make. Do you want to enter more trades but have a chance of losing more? Or do you want to enter less trades but have better setups? That's what you have to think. Last time you had a string of losses, how do you deal with it? Well, currently I've lost 2 trades in a row. I guess that counts as a string of losses. And the way I deal with it is the same as how I deal with a string of winners. If I win 2 trades in a row, the mistake that people make is they let their ego grow. And the ego growing in trading will make sure you get humbled very, very promptly. And you don't want that to happen, to be honest. So you don't want your ego to grow when you win, and you don't want your confidence to fall when you lose. So you kind of have to be in the middle ground, whether you're winning or losing. Because if winning, you need to remain level-headed. If you're losing, you have to remain level-headed. Very simple. What do you think about the gurus that just show their lifestyle on social media without any value? To be honest, if people are following or buying content from people who are just showing their lifestyle without any trading value, then it's just on them, to be honest. If you don't get any value after watching someone who quite clearly is only showing you their lifestyle, then that's on you. That's your wasted time and your wasted money, to be honest. I always try and provide enough value on YouTube so people don't have to pay for anything. So if you watch through every single one of my YouTube videos, I've done breakdowns, backtesting videos, trading plan videos, everything. So I personally think you could be profitable just on my YouTube videos. And the reason I had the mentorship separate is for people who want a more customized experience, that everything's all in one place. Whereas finding information that you want through YouTube videos can take quite a while. Whereas if you're doing it through a mentorship, or doing it where you can actually talk to people that are learning exactly the same thing as you, then it can be a different experience. But the people who are just showing their lifestyle, they don't know the value because they don't have that knowledge. They don't have the trading experience. Anybody can rent a Lamborghini for a day, take 5 weeks worth of pictures, sell a course, and then make the money to then hopefully actually buy that Lamborghini for the content. That's how they do it. So if you're seeing that, then probably run as far away as you possibly can. I don't even trade Forex, but I really love your work and transparency. Much love from South Africa. That's much appreciated. I don't know why people would watch if they don't like Forex, but that's great. I think if you're a non-trader watching me talk, it would probably be the most boring experience of your life, to be honest. Because I seem to be able to talk forever about trading, which I think is why I haven't run out of content to make on YouTube, to be honest. My gold trade just completed 100 pips sell in the last hour since watching your stream. That is very good news. Very good news. Got to love those winning trades. Let's see gold. To make profit during that last hour is quite impressive, to be honest. We haven't really done much in the grand schemes of things. GU again. Obviously, I'm not in this trade, just for people that are joining now. They might think so. But there's no active trade right now. We haven't really had any good setup in this London session so far. Which is, it's annoying, obviously. I thought I'd be able to come on here and get some nice live trading action for you guys, but yeah, unfortunately, that hasn't been the case so far. Why do so many content creators make so many strategy videos even though they never follow any of those? Is it just for views? Probably, to be honest. You have to think about it. People are making content about trading. It's another income source for them. So, yeah. I only trade futures. I'm here for the support because I love your work. That is good. That's good. I noticed a lot of people seem to be transitioning into futures now. It seems to be the natural progression that a lot of prop firm traders especially are making. They seem to get fed up of CFD firms and they go to futures. What do you think of UJ? UJ, I used to trade UJ. Again, we're just consolidating at the moment. But we do have, we technically did break this structure here. It's very slight, but we did break the structure, so we could get something like that. But again, there's just no volume right now. You know, we're just stuck in a range, nothing going on. So I don't like to trade in ranges. I like to see and wait for a clear break of structure. If there's no clear break of structure, then I'm not looking to trade. Very simple. But we'll see what happens on GU. Will be quite interesting here. And if you guys watch my videos, you'll know that I don't like to rush any trades, or I don't like to force anything. So if I don't get a trade, then I'm okay with that. And that's just how it goes. Many people on social media get caught in the trap of thinking more trades equals more profits. But that is definitely not the case. That's definitely not the case. You know, in some cases, taking fewer trades is better for some strategies, but some strategies require you to take more trades. But you should only do that if you have data to back up your decision making. And if you don't, then why are you doing that? It's very simple. So we'll see what happens here on GU. Remember, not in this trade. You know, if we were in this trade, we would have been just tagged in now. But I'm not in this setup. I'm just looking to see what happens. Okay, so it actually did kind of reject off that entry point, which is interesting. You know, the break of the retest, potentially go higher. See euros doing anything? Not really. I guess we have technically broken this low here now. You know, we've broken the low here. Gold literally is identical to the euro, which is quite interesting. It's that same level I just drew on the euro. We just broke on gold as well. But yeah, GU is a bit different. So we haven't had the same setup on there. Dead on the 30-second. That is very surprising. I thought there'd be constant action on the 30-second time frame, to be honest. Would you ever consider visiting South Africa? Definitely. South Africa looks like a very beautiful country. Obviously, you stay away from certain areas in South Africa for obvious reasons. But they, yeah, it seems like... Also, one thing that's surprising, obviously I'm guessing there's South African viewers, but how do you have penguins on a beach? I thought penguins were supposed to be in icy conditions, but in South Africa they have penguins on the beach, which is crazy. Will I be back for New York session? No, I don't trade New York session, so I won't be trading in New York, unfortunately. What camera do you use? I use a Sony A7C. So I hope the quality is quite good. How did you end up controlling your emotions, especially people who overtrade? The main fix for overtrading is data. And with data, that should build your confidence. And if you have confidence in your strategy, you should never want to take trades that don't fit your plan. Because if you know that the most profitable way of your trading working is to only take a setup that is ticking all the boxes on your checklist, then any other trade to you should feel like a waste of money and a waste of time. And if that's not the experience and not the thought process you're actually getting, then you probably need to backtest more. Because in my opinion, the way that I actually talk about it, if I just show this chart for an example, when I'm investing in the S&P 500, like let's say I'm investing here, I only have full confidence, and everybody has full confidence when the S&P drops 20% in a matter of weeks or a month. We only have full confidence to keep buying because of all the historical data that backs up that every other time we've had a drop that is of a similar size, like this one, 26%, this one, 26%, let's say, we only have the conviction, the high conviction the price is going to continue higher because of the data. In your trading, you want to have the same confidence. I'm only confident investing because of historical data and it has proved itself. If your strategy hasn't proved itself in the live markets or from previous data, then how will you have that confidence? Let's say I was taking this trade right here. I'd only ever take this trade with capital that I know is at risk if I have full confidence in the trade. I can only have full confidence if I have the data. If I don't have the backtested data to back it up, then I'm just trading randomly. You can't go into a trade with a proper trading strategy with no data. So that is how you stop overtrading. And it will also help you manage your emotions. Your emotions will be in a good state if you have data. Very, very simple. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of my viewers are from South Africa. And I think South Africa has a massive trading scene. Everyone's making 300% a month down here. You know, I see all the videos of South African traders on Instagram, and they'll be trading NFP with like $200 in an account, and they'll be risking like 200 lots on gold or something like that with 1 to 3,000 leverage, which is quite funny. The old gold strategy I used to trade was basically just, I think it was just support and resistance, to be honest, but I think I was just doing it in a different way, where I was entering after price had already violated the support or violated the resistance, and it was quite interesting. But I feel like it doesn't work now. It worked at the time because gold used to be super volatile, but now it is a bit different. Did you get triggered into the GU trade? I'm not taking any trade. There's no valid trade for me right now, to be honest. I mean, it would be in profit, but it's not good for me at the moment. Have you ever thought of updating your mentorship videos? Of course. I'm working on a new backtesting series for the mentorship. I get paid out within 50 minutes. Yeah, a lot of prop firms now, to try and undercut and try and get people to sign up with them, they're offering incentives for them to pay out fast. So they're saying, if I don't pay out within 24 hours or within a certain time frame, that you get an extra $1,000 with your payout, which I think is crazy. It's crazy. That's the only time that you'd want them to be slow with your payout, which is quite funny. How much do I need to make £100 a day on GU and gold? Would you say 5,000? Well, you can never make a set amount every single day when trading. If people say, oh, I make $1,000 a day in trading, that would probably mean that's averaged out. You can't really say every day I'm going to wake up and end the trading day with 100% or £100 even. But it's just not a way to do it, because if you don't have a trade, then you'll probably rush into the markets when you shouldn't be trading, and it will just end badly. If your strategy is simple, why does it need 70 videos to explain it? Not every single video in the mentorship is me saying, this is how I trade, this is how I do this. The way to learn trading is not by someone just saying, this is my confluence, this is my entry. That's not the best way to learn, in my opinion. You need to have examples of trades. You need to be able to be shown, this is how I backtest my strategy. This is how to effectively backtest. This is how I am able to collect data. How do I journal my trades? These are trade breakdowns. This is the trades I've actually taken this week. And then you can compare it to your trading. Also videos on Q&A videos. You know, a mentorship isn't just, and most people think a mentorship is just, this is how I buy, this is how I sell, and that's it. No. What's your TradingView color settings? My TradingView colors are just gray, to be honest. They're just different shades of gray. I don't think colors really matter, to be honest. I think most traders will probably do the best in their trading with just neutral colors. Red and green, a lot of people just use red and green on their charts, and I think that's completely fine. Do you think your trading strategy will stop working at some point? I don't think so, to be honest, and I don't think that really matters, because developing an edge in the markets is, you need to constantly evolve. And if you're not constantly evolving, then you're going to get left behind. So you need to be able to realize, okay, markets are changing slightly, I need to adapt. So this could be like when I noticed that the volatility was dying down when I was trading gold. I switched pairs to a pair that was suiting that volatility better. And also, when you're at different stages in your trading, you're going to want to approach the markets differently. At the beginning stages, you're going to be in a situation where perhaps you want to make more money. You want to have a higher return because you have less capital. And the less capital you have, the more you have to risk, the more profit you have to make to get the same return as someone with higher capital. Then once you get to a decent stage where you have a larger amount of capital that you don't want to lose, you're more about preserving that capital. So you're more about lower risk styles of trading. And this is where people can keep their lower risk style of trading on one side, but also have that riskier side with higher profits on the prop firm side. Because to get a prop firm payout, you need a large amount of profit to pass phase 1, phase 2, and then obviously get payouts. How old are you? I am 22 years old. Yeah, psychology is a good thing to learn, but also I think a simple way to get around psychological issues is by just collecting more data. I just feel like that's the best way to go about it. What time is it on your side? In South Africa, it's 12:10. It is 10 o'clock right now. What index fund was it that you showed? I showed the VUSA, which is the Vanguard S&P 500. And I think the VUSA is the accumulating one and not the distributing one. I think the VUAG is the accumulating even. I'm not sure which way around it is. Obviously one pays dividends and one's automatically reinvests them. See, people have bad psychology, usually, because people can't stay disciplined, a psychological issue. Yeah, but you'll be more disciplined if there's data. People that understand the data will naturally just be more disciplined. And at that point, if you still can't be disciplined, even though the data's there, then that's probably an issue with you as a person. If you're not able to trade over and over again the same thing, then that's a personal issue. And that's probably prevalent outside of your trading too. If you're not able to go through trading, backtesting, and stay disciplined, then you probably aren't disciplined in your life outside of trading as well. Perhaps that could be linked to your exercise or your diet, but it's probably not the point that you want it to actually be at. What's your RR? I trade with a 1 to 3 risk reward. It's funny, G is actually reacting from the entry that I showed earlier, which is quite funny. We're up around, or would be up around 6 pips. But yeah, no trade for me so far. And that was very accurate. Very, very accurate on that entry point. And I always say to people, it's a fixed risk reward of 1 to 3, but it always seems to line up with certain points in the market. So you can see this area here. Or we can even draw it back all the way over here. So this area, we've been testing. Retest this area. And now, random entry point here. Well, not random, it's obviously based on my strategy, but now 1 to 3. 1 to 3 is a fixed one. It's a fixed risk reward, but it always seems to line up, which is quite funny. People always say using fixed risk rewards means your stop loss and take profit at random places. Well, stop loss ends up below the zone. The take profit ends up in the zone here. So is it really random? You know, you can answer that one for yourselves. People revenge trade, get emotional. Yes, but you're only going to revenge trade if you're not disciplined. Like it all really comes down to discipline and patience. If you can't accept the fact that you can lose a trade, then you will revenge trade. One of my dreams when I become profitable is going to the UK and meeting you. To be honest, going to the UK is I don't really think many people want to come to the UK unless you want to get your phone stolen or you want to be stabbed if you're wearing a watch, to be honest. How to detect a retest? How do you know it's valid and will not dump or pump more? Well, you kind of have to base it on what you've seen before, to be honest. You can never know if price is going to rally straight through your stop loss or the retest is going to hold or not. you never truly know what's going to happen. If you knew that that retest was going to hold or not, then you would have a 100% win rate. If you knew exactly when that retest was not going to hold, you just wouldn't enter the trade. And if you knew it's going to hold every single time, then you just enter with max risk. Hello, Paul. I do remember speaking to you on Instagram. Obviously, my French is it's perfect now, so I can understand you. Misinformation. It's funny because I think 241,000 phones were stolen in like the last 2 years or something. What is the max acceptable drawdown on personal capital? Tricky question because it depends. It depends. I would always say it depends on your return, because you should base your return on your max drawdown. You could have a max drawdown of 10%, which is, you know, acceptable. But if your return is 12%, then it's not that good. But if you have a 12% return and a 3% drawdown, then it's a lot better, because then you can scale up to 10% drawdown, and your return is then scaled up by, 3% or 3 times even. How long have you been trading? I started trading in 2019. Do you do these lives often? If not, you should, just because trading can be lonely. Trading definitely can be lonely for a lot of people, especially people that get into trading and they don't know any other traders, because it's very difficult. It's very difficult. The main downside to trading is that nobody understands what trading actually is. If you try to tell somebody that's older than you, or somebody that's not in finance at all, that you're day trading or you're trading in finance, then yeah, it's a very hard conversation to have, because people just, they don't understand at all. Your car window got smashed. Yeah, London is basically a free-for-all, to be honest. It seems very, very dangerous. What's your average yearly P&L from backtesting? Depends on the strategy. Depends on the strategy. But I'm always happy with, average of 3-4% per month. That would be a great return, yearly return. Are you going to any F1 races this year? That would obviously be a good thing to do. But if you actually want to watch the races and actually watch the F1, then it's probably not good to actually go and watch them, because you're missing out on so much stuff that you can only see online and on the TV when you're watching it, which is annoying. The only F1 race that I probably go to would be Monaco, or perhaps one of the more boring races to actually watch as a viewer, because then you still get the atmosphere of being at an F1 race, but then you don't get the downside of not being able to actually watch the action. So if you go to Monaco, where there's barely any overtaking, you're not missing out on the action if you're watching it at the race. Whereas if you're watching it at home, it's not really an exciting race. How long did it take me to be consistently profitable? It was a lot quicker for me than for most people. And I think the main reason was because I went fully all in from day one. And many people don't have the same opportunity that I had. I was 16 and I didn't have rent. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have to pay for anything because I was a child. And this gave me the perfect situation to drop out of college and go all in with trading. So you think the average person that can perhaps allocate 30 minutes or an hour max per day, I was able to allocate 10, 12, 14 hours per day. So I was getting in 2 weeks worth of work that the average person was able to do in 1 or 2 days. So that's why I had my first payout, obviously, as soon as I turned 18. I was able to get multiple payouts as soon as I turned 18, which was great. Is there any way to arrange funds without 9 to 5? I have a great strategy, but I lack risk management and breached my account. I don't know if you're talking about getting funds, because the best way to get funds for trading is to obviously work a job. And then with that job, you can fund prop firm capital and then scale up that way. So would you say 0.5% average is a great return a day? It's hard to return an average per day, because you should be focusing on monthly, quarterly, and yearly returns. It doesn't matter if you return 0.5% on average per day. That would obviously be a great return, because that would be like 15% in a month. But yeah. Talking about a lonely road, do you have friends who trade or in a community? I definitely do have a few friends that trade. The issue is most traders don't actually trade, which you'll find out if you do speak to people who are in the industry. A lot of people are scammers, and so it's actually hard to find people who actually trade. But they usually seem to be around the same age as me, and which is quite good. Where would you say is a safer place to move to from London? Anywhere outside of the cities, to be honest. Any UK cities seem to be quite dangerous, especially up north. The further down south you go, it seems to be safer. That's probably because it's more expensive. You sold gold. And now you've bought from 4,600, break structure and climbed to previous new highs. What do you reckon? And that is definitely possible. Gold seems to have some momentum, even though it's still technically consolidating, but can you go briefly through your checklist and show us things that need to align before you take a trade? For instance, today you're not trading. Please tell us why. I'm not trading today because there's no valid setup. So in your trading, you should have something that says, this is the bias that gives me a bullish outlook or a bearish outlook. And that's great. Then you need to think, okay, now how can I actually enter? So you need something that after giving you a bullish or bearish read on the markets, you need to say, this will give me a buy limit or a buy signal. And then you need to say, okay, is there anything that's stopping me from trading? So is that news? Is that perhaps you're not able to be fully focused or you have distractions? Just don't trade. It's very simple. Then you obviously set your limit, you calculate your risk, and everything's perfect. People think it's done there. But your checklist should also include trade management. So if this happens during my trade, what do I do? If there's a break of structure in the opposite direction, what do I do? Is there a news release 4 hours down the line? If I'm still in the trade at that point, what do I do? You need to basically account for every single situation. And usually it's easier to put it into a flow chart. So if this happens, yes, do this. No, do this. Because then you have every single possible outcome covered. Rather than having a checklist, you can obviously have a checklist for your trade entry. Then you have a flow chart for entries, exits, and management. But I have done a YouTube video on that before. How hard did you find it to get a good accountant who understands trading and prop income? It is quite difficult, to be honest, because most conventional accounting firms have never heard of trading. So it is definitely quite difficult, but I was quite lucky. What can a person realistically earn from trading per month and per year? Asking from a third world country, is it worth to try side by side with a job? Well, I would always think you should have a job when you're learning to trade. You should have a job when you're earning money from trading. Because earning money from trading is different from being able to live off of trading. And from a third world country, like you said, your salary probably isn't going to be as high as someone from the UK, for example. So purchasing prop firm challenges is going to be very difficult. I know some 10k challenges are very cheap, but it's going to be difficult, and I'd obviously always say to keep a job, because people who quit their job and go into trading full time, they usually do it way too soon, and they always end up having to get that job back, which is never a good feeling. Have you ever thought about acquiring funding from investors instead of the prop firm route? Not at the moment, because if you think about it, prop firms, there is absolutely zero risk. If you lose investors' money, you've lost actual people's capital, and it's a bit different from purchasing a prop firm challenge for $300, and if you lose it, no profits have actually been lost apart from obviously your prop firm fee, which isn't really major, to be honest. How often do you backtest? Quite a lot, to be honest. If I can just maybe pull up my backtested data here. So FX Replay had their rewind, so you can see overall win rate, 1,000 winning trades, GU and EU. London sessions, obviously my favorite, typical. I've replayed through 33 years. It's a long time. 3,000 trades, total profit of 223k. So yeah, these are the backtesting stats, which is quite cool. And you can see, like on the dashboard, you can probably see it here. Time invested, 5 days. 5 days, 19 hours. So that's what, 140 hours or so. And 40 years of previous data, which is quite interesting. And this is obviously the new strategy that I've been backtesting. And it says 1.4%, but this is actually 5.8% because two of the winning trades didn't enter. But I recorded it all, obviously. But this is just a EU New York strategy trading off of the London highs and lows. This month should have been minus 0.75%. This month should have been plus 6%. So overall, it's been a good trading strategy, and one that I hopefully continue backtesting, perhaps on stream or something in the future, because it has been doing quite well. Would you ever interview new traders? I see you on Nick's channel every so often showing a P&L. Probably not, to be honest. Maybe I'd do like the podcast episodes again or something like that, but I don't really see the point. Do you think you can become another ICT when you reach his age? Well, to be honest, I don't think I'd even be on YouTube when I'm at his age, to be honest. Hopefully I'd be retired by then. I paper traded for years, and in December I started with a prop firm and blue 6 accounts. I finally passed my account last week and up on the P&L and made back the money from the burn accounts. That is a very good situation. But many people don't understand that trading is obviously very, very hard to make money. But then once you start making money, that's when you can basically make back all of your losses very quickly, just like what you've been saying. It's like the hardest way to make easy money. I saw someone comment that on one of my videos recently, and I was like, that is so true. It's very hard to actually make money, but once you do make money, it seems super easy. And it seems like this money, I barely had to work for it. That's what it feels like sometimes. Do you think completely mechanical strategies are destined to have lower win rate? I wouldn't say so. I think people that trade mechanical strategies make less mistakes, because trading a discretionary strategy, it can be very dependent on your mood. So if you think you're going into the markets, you're negative, perhaps you're not feeling great, it's definitely going to affect the way you're trading, and you don't want to have that. Whereas if it's mechanical and it's just, if it happens, do this, then it doesn't really matter about your mood, and it's just based on what's happening in the markets. Do you believe you can come up with a strategy from YouTube, learn it, perfect it, and be profitable Yes, it's definitely true. How did you fund your trading in the early stages? What was your job? I only ever had a job for 1 month when I was 15, and then I got fired. I used to make money from buying and reselling clothes. So I buy designer clothes on different sites and I sell them on different sites for more, because I think people even do it now. Certain sites you can get really good deals, and then let's say you sell on eBay instead, you can get a higher price. Or you buy on eBay and you sell on a different website or a different app for more. Even though it's the same product, certain websites just demand different prices. So that's what I was doing to fund my first trading account. Do you ever play EA or Steam? I used to play games quite a lot, to be honest, but now I'm just working 24/7, I guess. Just requested my first payout for 2026. Very, very nice. How many prop firm evaluations did you blow before making your first actual payout? See, I was very lucky. I had to wait until I was 18 to pass prop firms, which meant I'd already been trading for 2 years. So I passed my first prop firm. My first prop firm challenge I passed, which was very good. Will you be going live every trading day? Potentially. I'm not too sure yet. It will obviously be easier to trade live and do the videos when I'm actually getting setups, because if I'm not getting setups, then it will be super boring. You can see here that trade I showed earlier, the analysis it's been working very well. Literally pinpoint entry. Yeah, the accuracy is great. But what this also means is that if I was trading this, I probably, to be honest, wouldn't have been tagged in. I had a situation earlier this week where I didn't get tagged into a position and price went a lot deeper into the zone. It all depends on the spread of the account you're trading, which is why it's very hard to trade with multiple different firms. Because let's say you're trading one firm and you have tight spread and it tags you in here, but then on a copy trader, the other firm doesn't have tight spread or it widens during that time, and you don't get tagged in. Let's say this goes to take profit now, you then have a 3% discrepancy between those accounts, which can be very, very annoying. Would you say your strategy is mechanical enough to code into an EA? I'd say so, yes, and that's what I plan to do in the next couple of years. What's your goal for 2026? Hopefully do better than 2025. I mean, that's just, yeah. I think having profit goals is bad, because some people, it forces them into trades and decisions they wouldn't normally take. So I just trade every day as if it's a new day, and I don't care what happened yesterday. I just trade the exact same, just over and over again. Is 5% a month realistic? On YouTube, people have even claimed to make 10% a month. Is it realistic or not? So let me just put this into perspective for you. People that claim to make 10% per month, we can quickly see if that's realistic or not. So let's say you start with $100,000, like a prop firm account, for example, and they say they're making 10% monthly. And let's say they don't deposit any more money. In 5 years, they'd have £30 million. So does that seem realistic? And let's say even $10,000 or £10,000, they'd have 3 million in 5 years. Does that seem realistic? It doesn't seem realistic to me. So yeah, I mean, let's say 10 years. 10 years with £10,000 investment, with 10% per month, which people claim to make. Oh, they'd have £900 million in 10 years. If they've been trading and claiming to do so for more than a few years, then if they don't have tens of millions, then you can probably see the lies. It's probably an easy way to put it. Can we see your chart settings? Of course. This trade is absolutely rallying to the upside now. Settings, there you go. So that color, wicks are obviously white. There you go. Those are all of my chart settings. You entered where I did. I didn't actually enter this trade, and it wouldn't even have been tagged in anyway. So if we're looking 968, if I just get up my MetaTrader, let me just get it up, and I look at 968. So this obviously would have been the entry point. But with the spread, it would have been very hit or miss whether I would have actually been tagged in the trade or not. You need to think about spreads when you are trading. It's very, very important. Would you say it's better for beginners to do a fixed 1 to 2, maybe exit 80% and let the rest run? As I noticed, price will go to the 1 to 2 and retrace back. Psychologically, it's better. I would say for most traders, just waiting till take profit or stop loss is probably the easiest way to go about your trading. Because if you're taking profits off the table, then you still have a trade running. You can still make silly decisions, even though it's only 20%. Because if you just hold till stop loss or take profit, unless the trade is no longer valid, obviously, then that's in the worst case scenario, you lose the trade. Like, that's not really a bad outcome in my opinion. It could definitely be a lot worse. Had a very similar trade idea, didn't tag me in by 0.2 pips. Yeah, that's the issue with being precise in the markets. Sometimes you can be overly precise, which can be quite annoying. It means you miss out on some good moves. UJ starts bleeding. Let's see UJ. UJ hasn't really done much compared to gold or GU. The GU is now breaking this range to the upside, or trying to break that range. And gold, yeah, gold's slightly behind that. But yeah, GU's pushing, rallying to the upside. Do you think 3 years will be enough of 120 to 150 trades? I mean, that's a decent amount, yeah. You've got to make sure you've covered all different market conditions. If you haven't covered trending markets, you haven't covered consolidation, you haven't covered elections, you need to cover as many different market situations as possible. Because that's when you'll be able to truly see if your strategy works. Why didn't you take that GU setup, if you don't mind me asking? For me, we didn't. The break wasn't how I'd normally like the break to be. That's kind of the simplest way to put it. Just move this across. There you go. I mean, there's still a chance to obviously, like, a lot of people like to scale in. So you could get to scale in, retest to this level to go higher again. That's how I used to trade with prop firms. I'd turn a 3% trade into a, 6%, 7% trade by scaling in. You always do live trading on YouTube? No, this is actually the first time I've been live on YouTube. I never go break even in my trading. I used to. I just don't like it, to be honest. I tested going break even after a break of structure to the upside and things like that. And it hasn't been as good, to be honest, as other ways of trading. Will you do this more often? Definitely. I think it's good It's good going live, to be honest. What is the best time frame to trade on? Again, I mean, I wish I knew. I'm only trading on what works for me, and the data that I've collected, 15-minute has been the best. 15-minute fits the way I want to trade. It fits the time I trade. It fits everything to do with my trading. I've tested it. I've even traded the same strategy on the 4-hour, and it was profitable, but it didn't suit how I wanted to trade. I didn't want to wait 25 hours, 28 hours for a setup. Views on Euro GBP. Again, it's just trending market. Obviously we had a retest here, but it's not really too deep of a retest. So again, there would be no trades for me on this pair. Do you use TradeZeller? I do not. I use Edgewonk. And I use FX Replay for backtesting. $15-minute and hour structure breaks reveal a lot. Yeah, I would say 15-minute breaks are really good, and 1 hour. I feel like they go together quite nicely. People always say 15-minute and 1 hour, or 30 minutes and 4 hours, or 4 hours and daily, these sort of connections together, but I just only use one time frame. I feel like the more time frames, the more complicated your strategy is. And this trade's actually pushing like crazy. Yeah, I do have Edgewonk in my video description. I've been using Edgewonk for many, many years. I think I first purchased their software in 2021. Will you be doing more lives? Yes. Things you don't need to purchase a journaling software or anything like that. You can just use Excel. You can create your own journaling software or journaling sheet for free, because I know some people don't want to pay a large amount for a journal. They're obviously free alternatives to basically everything in trading. So it's never really a necessity to purchase any softwares. Apart from backtesting, I think FX Replay is good because backtesting manually, let's say going back here, and then you have to put on your risk to reward tool, and then you have to note down the trade and the screenshots. It can be quite frustrating. Whereas FX Replay, you can actually enter the positions here, which makes it super, super easy. You said in one of your videos you only eat once a day, if I remember rightly. Is that still the case? To be honest, many people disagree with me, but I think eating is a total waste of time. You think the amount of time you spend being hungry, thinking about eating, going to the shop, buying food, and coming back, making the food, eating the food, clearing up after the food, you're wasting so much time. I can't remember the stat, but it's a certain amount of hours per week the average person is spending on eating and everything like that. I just think it's a waste of time, and I don't even like food that much, to be honest. If I could just eat the same meal every single day, it would just be amazing. I think that would, it would save so much time, it would save so much money, and it would just make everything so simple. And imagine how much time you spend thinking about eating or thinking about food. It's just a waste of time. You could be working instead. You could just be enjoying your life rather than thinking about your next meal. Sometimes, to be honest, if I'm fully locked in, you just forget to eat. Right here I've got some grapes. I've got some grapes and a banana, and that's all I need to keep me going for now. Sleeping is a waste of time? No, sleeping definitely isn't a waste of time. Especially in trading, when you need to be 100% focused, you need to be well rested. But I also, technically sleeping is a waste of time, because if you're spending a third of your life sleeping, then it technically is a big waste of time, but I guess you can't function without it. So yeah. You need a fuse attached to your body injecting food. That is probably true. Yeah, I might need to look into that. You know, I think the best invention would be one small pill that can make you full and also gives you every single nutrient that you need in the day. That would be the $1 billion idea, if anyone wants to create that for me. So what do you do, private chef? No, I still end up cooking for myself, to be honest. But it's just a waste of time. What does your A+ setup look like? An A+ setup for me is a setup that has no bad signs about it. So if you go through your trading, go through your journaled results and think, these 5 trades are the best trades. Perhaps you have very, very minimal drawdown. Perhaps that trade rallies straight to the take profit, breaking structure every single time. What is happening in that trade that's different from the trades that aren't as good? The trades that have 70% of the trade goes into drawdown. You need to basically pick the best setups in your trading. Why are those the best setups, and can you replicate those over and over again? Exactly like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory foods, definitely. You tried to zoom my trade. Okay. Yeah, I think you've lost the plot if you're zooming into the live stream. Perhaps you need to get some sleep. Those meal drinks, no, yeah, but they taste absolutely disgusting, to be honest. I tried one of them once and it just does not taste nice. I've noticed that anything that says protein or it says meal replacement or any of these things just taste disgusting. I feel like the only thing that tastes nice is actual fresh food. See, the pair is GU and the time frame is 15 minutes. So it's very simple. Any free tools you use that help a lot in trading? I would say Google Sheets or Excel spreadsheet. You can calculate so many things about your strategy. You can work out things on spreadsheets that will save you so much time, that will save you so much money, make you so much more profit. And the only way to find those out is by going through the data, obviously. But the free alternative is, obviously you can do it on the backtesting software, but actually putting in the time to collect the data and go through the data is what takes up the time. But actually collecting data is free. It's free. Any important metric you keep a check on? I like keeping a check on my Kalmar ratio because, you know, the return based on your max drawdown is very important. Because I think that return on a drawdown is probably one of the most, I'd say people overlook it a lot. The reason being, people only care about their absolute overall return. So they're doing their back testing. If they return 20%, that's the only thing they focus on. And if they return another strategy 30%, great, that's a better strategy in their eyes. But I don't see it like that. I don't see it like that at all. If I have a 3% max drawdown with a 12% return, compare that to a 15% max drawdown with a 30% return, I'm happier with that 3 and 12 rather than the 15 and 30. Because if you scale up that 3 and 12 to a 12% drawdown like that second strategy, then you're actually returning a hell of a lot more. What do you do in your free time? Do you work out or play football? I do a few different activities, to be honest, and I don't go to the gym and weightlift and stuff like that because I think it is the most boring thing that you can possibly do. Imagine lifting a piece of metal up and down every single day, over and over again. Like, I honestly couldn't think of anything worse, to be honest. Could you walk us through this trade idea? Of course, of course. So we'll just go back to here. So, you know, we have this was the structure at the time, and we play price on. We obviously broke that structure. It's pushed to the upside. Then we're obviously looking for a retest. And then when price retests, we're looking for a retest into the zone where price actually broke from. So that's obviously the zone. So you could say this whole area is the zone. But I have a way that obviously I teach in a mentorship to get precise entries to know how far price is going to obviously retest. Then that was where I looked to get the entry, then price retest, and then we played on and then to current price. But obviously London session, waited for London to break structure. You could say like this was a structure point that we broke, but obviously I'm only trading past 8 a.m. and yeah, you know, certain times if we do this, so people were trading like this and now enter exactly here. But sometimes price would go in, it would go into the zone, but then they're getting stopped out or they're going into drawdown. You need to know when to enter, when not to enter, when to realize that it's an early entry, when to realize perhaps it's not worth entering the trade. You need to work out these things beforehand. How do you identify fake outs? I don't. The way to identify is by using bodies. Wicks, you get crazy wicks. Like people, you're not going to say this is a break of structure because it's a wick. If you're just using bodies, the bodies here, break, it's a lot easier. Bodies are what solidifies a break of structure, in my opinion. Dopamine from lifting heavy weights for reps. Yeah, it's obviously impressive to lift heavy weights, and I know it takes obviously a lot of dedication, but I just don't think it's functional strength at all. Like, you see these bodybuilders that can't even reach their back, or they can't even sit in an airplane seat. Now that's not functional at all. You can't live your normal life. Whereas if you have proper functional strength, then that's just the best. If you can't do 10 pull-ups, then you know what you're doing. You can't even lift your own body weight. Imagine you're falling off the side of a cliff and you can't even lift your own body weight up because you have so much weight. High rocks or CrossFit? No, that's on the same level as lifting weights, to be honest. If you see people in CrossFit do pull-ups, that is embarrassing. It is embarrassing, let's just say that. But yeah, but people that lift weights, they want to be as big as possible usually. Calisthenics is more acceptable, in my opinion. It's more acceptable because at least you're using your body weight and you can actually lift your weight. But the strongest people are climbers or, you know, like wrestlers. Wrestlers, I think they are the strongest. And wrestling training, I think, is the best training you can possibly do. So wrestling, calisthenics, climbing, those are the best in my opinion. Because wrestlers, they are massive and they can actually use their weight. So you see like all the Russian wrestlers, or you see the Russian Sambo people. Insane. Absolutely insane. 100 plus kilos. Insane. Exactly. Just be like Khabib. Or you be like Hamza and then you're sorted. It would definitely be uncomfortable if you're massive. But sumos are a bit different. That's kind of a exception. I don't think a bodybuilder would last 10 minutes in a Russian Sambo gym. But I think Sambo people or wrestlers could last in a weightlifting gym. I think if you have to use momentum to do a pull-up, then like the CrossFit people in the the competitions and everything, like the high rocks, I think every single pull-up should be strict. Otherwise, you're not really doing a pull-up. It's just momentum. Wrestlers have a very strong core. I think the whole body of a wrestler is strong. You think a wrestler's grip strength is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. You look British. Well, it's very, very good guess. Should have been a little late. Are you in this trade or if price returns to entry? I'm not in this trade, but it did work perfectly. It's actually very, very accurate, which is quite surprising. But you can, I think it'd be a good retest entry here, something like that to, scale into this position. It'll probably work out quite nicely, unless we fully retest the entry, that is. How high do you think it's going to get? Well, obviously, I think this level here. The only way I'd actually change my bias is if we break structure to the downside. If we break and close below this level, then I would obviously think the price is going to go to the downside. That's the only way that I would change direction when in a trade or something like that. Because if we just broke into the upside, again, then this is giving me a clear indication that price is going to continue higher. Then if we break that trend by breaking to the downside here with a close below, then it's giving me the indication that it's going to switch trend like this. If none of those things happen, then I don't see any change in the overall momentum. Is Sambo not a Brazilian drink or something? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Can you bless me with 200? No. No, this is not a charity live stream, unfortunately. There's no free money being given away here. You look like you have a skinny British girlfriend that is vegan. That is a very interesting observation. Not sure how you've really come to that conclusion, but that's very interesting. How often do you travel per year? I used to travel a fair bit. But yeah, I don't know. I think that traveling sometimes is just a waste of time, because you can do everything in England. Obviously, it's nice to go to other places, but people that travel all the time or they're spending months in different countries, I don't see the appeal, to be honest. Have you been exposed to sun rays before? Unfortunately not. These lights that I have on here currently are the only lights that I'm allowed to allowed to be exposed to. Everything is time wasting except trading. Well, that's just what I like, to be honest. You know, if someone likes traveling, then sure, go and travel. But I don't see the appeal, so I'm not going to lie and say I enjoy traveling. Have you been to Bali? I have not. I have not. You know, I like cold countries. I don't really like warm countries. And most people go on holiday to warm countries. You know, I'd rather go to a cold country than a warm country. You can travel and trade. You can, but it's not the most effective way to trade. Trading is a lot easier if you're in an environment like this, where I know that when I'm in this room and when I'm at this desk, that I'm going to be trading. Whereas if you're traveling, you obviously want to experience the whole traveling. If you paid to go on, paid to fly, and you've paid to stay at hotels or different experiences, you should spend your time experiencing that rather than trying to trade while traveling. It just ends up, perhaps you lose a trade, then it ruins your day when you're on holiday. It's just not a good situation. I have a Carl Pilkington attitude to travel. That is very true. I think, his idiot abroad things are, I say they're quite relatable in some aspects, to be honest. There's no sun here, you've got to explore other cultures. Why would you explore other cultures when the British culture is the best in the world? You know, everything will just be disappointing compared to British culture. You know, you can't beat some afternoon tea, some 11s, some, I don't even know what we do. And we do get some good sun. And everyone always says, you know, if you go to any other country in the summer, it's not as bad as UK heat. UK heat is the hottest heat in the world. Imagine you're in Alaska hitting 5-figure payouts. That would be quite fun. I actually, when I had my 50k day, to reward myself, I booked a week skiing, obviously. So it's like, I feel like you can only go on holiday as a trader as a reward for good performance. That's kind of what I think about it. Do you prefer skinny white girl countries? Of course. The UK heat is wet and clammy. It's definitely humid here. Definitely humid. Why am I longing in a downtrend? Because the 15-minute is not in a downtrend. You know, this was the structure. This was the high, broken the high, broken another high, broken another high. This is an uptrend. You could say overall it's a downtrend, but in this session and in this day, we are in an uptrend. So I'm obviously going to think bullish. What's your thoughts on living in the States? I think it would definitely be better now than it was a year ago. Obviously, you've got the main man in power now, and I think it's probably going to improve. But I just think the American culture is a bit interesting. I don't know if this is true, but I think in America, everyone drives everywhere. Like in the UK, if you're living in a town or a village or a city, many people don't really drive much. Like people will just walk. You walk to the shop, or you walk to the pub, or people actually walk places. And in America, people seem to just drive everywhere. You know, I was in Canada, and everywhere's just a driving distance, whereas in the UK everything seems to be close together and a walking distance. We're all saying British culture is the best, but telling people not to come because you get stabbed or mugged. Well, that's only in major cities, to be honest. If you go to London and you're walking around with your phone out, you're walking around wearing a nice watch, then you're probably not going to have that phone or watch at the end of the day. Yeah, the major cities are, yeah. The people that go to travel to London and then, because they don't know, like if I was traveling to another city and I was unaware of not to walk around my phone out on maps or something, then it's going to be a bit of a shocking experience. With ICE issues going out of control. I mean, if you're there illegally, then game's the game. What's your thinking for the TP level? Not doubting, just wondering. I just used a fixed risk reward. It's 10 pip stop loss, 30 pip take profit, and that's it. You have to drive in the US because it's so big, except New York City. Yeah, that's the thing. I've noticed that I see videos online where people are saying, oh, I have a short drive. The people in the US are saying they have a short drive, and it's like 7 hours. 7 hours gets you basically the whole of the UK. For me, a long drive would be like 2 hours. That's quite a long way in the UK. But in America, people just eat up the miles, and it's just unbelievable. But I guess people in America, they have so many different areas to go to. I think most people in America don't even have passports because they just go from different state to state. Whereas in the UK, you wouldn't really go on holiday to the nearby county. You just go an hour, fly into Europe. Why more profitable traders and mentors can say live only from trading and also to save money before going full time? The main reason you should have and save money before going full time is so that it makes the process easier. If you're trading and you have to make money every month to pay all your bills and expenses, you're going to have pressure on yourself. The less pressure you have, the easier it will be. So having different income sources, whether this is a job, another business, or savings, emergency fund, you have 12 months rent saved up or something like that, then it can make it a lot easier. Have you been to Australia? I have not been to Australia. And people that go to Australia just say it's like a warm version of England anyway. Australian people are just British technically anyway, so. Being based in the UK is the best. You can just go on holiday when you've had enough. Exactly. You can just travel an hour and you're in France. I guess you probably get a bit further than that, but how far back should I look to identify a strong support or resistance zone on a 1 hour chart? Well, I'd say it depends. It depends. I only trade the 15 minute. So I'm looking like the most recent high or low. So if I'm looking to trade this push here, I'm looking to trade this high. If I'm looking to trade this break here, I'm looking to trade this high. I'm looking at the most recent one because that's the most relevant to me at the time. I'm not looking to trade one all the way back here because we've had so much happening in between here and there that it's not relevant to me to trade from. And obviously I feel like it's applicable on the majority of the time frames. You just scale it up to more pips and a bigger move on the higher time frames. Have you been in Montenegro or Serbia? I haven't. I've been to Slovenia, but I haven't been to those countries. There are a few countries I actually want to go to, but yeah, Slovenia was really nice. It was like it's like the safest country I've ever been in. It was unbelievable. Everything was clean, everything was so nice, and everything. How do I save an FTMO challenge in 9% drawdown? Yeah, that's difficult because you have to scale down massively to like 0.1, 0.2%, but then it takes a while to get out of the drawdown. You either have to accept that it's going to take a while with low risk to get out of the drawdown, or you just, risk 0.5% and just hope it wins. Are you into swimming? You've got the Thames to jump into. You probably die if you swallow the Thames water, to be honest. I don't really do any swimming. Why do you think there's so many British traders? I don't actually know. There seems to be a lot of British traders, which I think it's quite weird how a lot of traders are British, but they all end up leaving England as soon as they make any sort of money anyway. But I think there's so many South African traders and US traders. The US traders are usually obsessed with promoting lifestyle content, and the South African traders are obsessed with doing account flips. That's kind of what I've noticed. Italian traders. I don't think I know any Italian traders. I know a few Scandinavian traders. Try Poland. Yeah, I do actually want to go to Poland. Poland will be quite nice because it's got very positive stats behind Poland. Why would they leave London? Why would you not leave London? Why would you stay in London? Why would you choose it in the first place, to be honest? There's not many British traders when you compare it to the population. Maybe it's just because I am British. I see more British traders online, but I know quite a few traders in England. Not many people use the stocks and shares ISA. Yeah, the thing is about the UK, comparing it mainly to America. America, everyone's like business focused. They're investing. They have their 401ks and everything. Whereas in the UK, people don't really talk about money. People don't talk about business. People don't, incentivize usually to invest or anything. That's why I'm surprised if people don't use the ISA, because you get 20k a year and it's tax free. But I think Labour, a good decision they actually made was I think they're looking at capping the cash ISA allowance, which will hopefully force people to invest. And the more people that invest, the richer they'll probably be as a result of that. Analysis on GU was spot on. Which pairs do you prefer for challenges? GU, GBP USD only. That's the only pair I trade. The only pair I would probably trade forever. It's just amazing. South African traders love account flips and use event trading. I see the funniest videos on African traders. They always make me laugh so much, the account flips they're doing. Do you plan to go to Dubai? Probably not. You're from Poland. Very nice. Yeah, Poland has I've noticed a lot of people in Poland seem to be Ukrainian or Russian at the moment. I always see videos in Warsaw and places like that where they always have the Ukrainian number plates, and they have or Andorran number plates. Everyone seems to go to Poland. How come you haven't left the UK yet? Because it's the best country on the earth. You're a good guy, bro. I'm going to subscribe. Thank you. I appreciate that. Watching only one time frame. Yes, I only trade one time frame. I don't have to flick through loads of different time frames. I only trade the 15-minute. Very, very nice and simple. Statistically, there's more traders in the US than South Africa. That is, yeah, it makes sense. The US is obviously anything finance is massive, and Africa, South Africa is a large percentage of my audience, which is very surprising. And yeah, it's weird because usually the people that are doing trading are people that have money. Whereas obviously Africa as a whole is poorer than Europe, but you don't really see many European traders compared to Africa or the US. So it's actually quite surprising. But I've heard in South Africa, some of their brokers have like 1 to 3,000 leverage. And I think if you're offering your clients or your customers 1 to 3,000 leverage, it's just setting them up for failure. So the brokers in those African countries, it's just not starting them at a good point, because allowing them to risk a crazy amount is just not going to end well. Poland is a safe country. Yeah, it definitely is very safe. Do you have a car? I do. I have a Mercedes. What I've also noticed about the car culture in the US compared to the UK is, I think in America, when you buy a car and you buy insurance for the car and not the person. Whereas in the UK, you have to buy insurance for each person. So for me to get insured on, let's say, a McLaren, they would not insure me. I would have to pay like 30, 40 grand a year on insurance. Whereas in America, they can do it a lot easier. Which is why young people have these expensive cars in America, but you can't have that in the UK. We like you from South Africa. That's good. That's good news. I'm watching from Nigeria. It's actually quite interesting that so many different people from different countries are watching. I watched you before you had a beard. Well, that would have been a very, very long time ago. I live in Norway, and I thought that was the best country in the world. Yeah, Norway is Norway's quite nice because you have all the fjords and everything, and the snow. Oh, I love. We barely get any snow now in England. I'm jealous of the Scandinavian snow. From Malaysia, from the Balkans, Norway. Only YouTuber I know from the UK is Logan Paul. I'm sorry to break it to you, but Logan Paul is not from the UK. Been watching you before you had that beard. That's impressive. Wow, so many Norwegians. Do Norwegians understand Swedish? Buy NGU. Annoying watching Garb, thinking it should have bought. Yeah. Belgium. Swedish and Danish. Yeah, I can speak Swedish, obviously. Du är min fru. Du är väldigt vacker. Yeah. That's the only lines you need to learn in Swedish. From the Netherlands. Very flat country. When are you going to Dagestan? 2 to 3 years. I don't need to go to Dagestan. I've already got the beard and everything. Well, that's very kind. Every time I scale in, I feel like I'm overtrading. Well, if you have data to back it up, then it should be fine. If you would have shaved your mustache, then you would look like Khabib. That's quite funny. How do you record your trades when you backtest? Is you focused on one session or different sessions? So you're very eager to ask this question, aren't you? I think when I record my trades when I'm backtesting, I'm just trading them on FX replay. It's very simple. If you make 3k euros a month from trading, and if you have 5k euros saved, you can be full-time but not in London. Yeah, if you make like a US or like a Swiss salary, let's say, because they're usually high salaries, but you live in a cheaper country, then yeah, you can definitely make a good living from trading. That's why I think a lot of traders end up going to Asia. You know, if you're living in Thailand or Bali and you're on a UK or a US salary, then you can live a good life. But if you're trying to live in an expensive country, you have to make so much more to have a good life. And a lot of European countries are quite cheap. Who have you got on the 25th, Paddy or Justin? Well, I think Justin's going to win. Of course Justin's going to win. I mean, it would be good if Paddy wins, so that then our man Sarukian can come in and destroy Paddy. That would be a great fight to watch, because Paddy would get absolutely obliterated. But yeah, Justin's a very hard hitter, so I guess we'll see. Are you a Londoner? I'm not. What do you think of Malta? Photos, everything I've seen about Malta, it just looks like England. So I think they have like the pubs, they have the phone boxes and post boxes, the same in England. So I mean, it looks like a nice island. Why are you against your fellow countrymen? I didn't remember saying I was against anybody, to be honest. Is GU behaving normal right now? Since I'm a gold trader, I've always long or short after a manipulation sweep, but GU ain't sweeping right now. Well, yeah, every pair behaves differently. So if you're looking on gold here, you know, we're just consolidating. There's not really much going on. The euro, again, is behaving, I think, the same as GU's behaving, obviously with less consolidation. But GU, the way I like it is because it's a trending market. So when it trends, you can get some really nice moves. You can make some nice profits. Yeah, it's definitely about how far your money goes in each country, because in England, everything's very expensive, whereas the salaries are really low in England. You know, people in America for the same like software jobs are earning triple or quadruple what they make in England, which is unbelievable. You only trade one session? Yes. So there's no trading for me today. All good, Peter. Enjoy your day. Is there any news today? I don't think there is any news, or not any major news that would cause any concern. Did you see Avatar 3 yet? No. Do you ever trade crypto? I bought crypto in 2021 and I made a really good amount of profit. So I just sold everything and that was it. And I've never touched it since. That's the way I looked at it. I was like, I'm going to get in and get out. And then I'm going to be completely happy with the gains I've made. I backtest a lot on FX Replay, but when it comes to live, I find it hard as the process isn't as rapid as just skipping through to the result. Any tips? The biggest tip is to start live testing. So like this trade here, if you were like, okay, this fits the setup perfectly. Okay, I'm going to put the risk reward tool on and I'm going to see it and let it play out. You could either enter with a small amount of money or on a demo account or a prop firm challenge or something, but just seeing the trade going slowly instead of just click, 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 it can definitely help. That's the issue with backtesting. Everything's so instant. You can backtest a year of data in a day, and that can be quite dangerous for some people. Favorite football team? Yeah, I don't watch football. Stupid question, but is this trade you're currently on? I haven't entered this trade, but it's a trade that's going well. I mean, yeah, you could get a re-entry soon. That is definitely a possibility. I am not re-entering into this trade. I mean, you could re-enter when you go down to like this sort of level, perhaps. There's definitely a possibility, something like that. But yeah, we're getting late into London now, so I wouldn't really look to take anything at the moment unless we do get that nice re-entry, obviously. What's the most you've lost in a month? The most I've lost in personal capital in a month was quite a large amount, and that was when Russia invaded Ukraine. Yeah, that was, gold just went absolutely crazy that day. And that was brutal. That was absolutely brutal. You've changed the game for many of us, Will. You don't know the impact you've made on some of our forex journeys. That's amazing to hear. It's always good to hear when people are enjoying the videos. I've been making videos for many years now. I think in total I've made over 1,000 plus videos, which is quite a lot. So I'm glad when people are enjoying the videos. It's always great to hear that the work is paying off. Short on UJ, any advice? Let's see. 158, 137. I mean, yeah, you're doing quite well at the moment. Obviously, still consolidating. So you'd want to see like a good close bearish here. If we just see what's... Yeah, it's kind of in no man's land at the moment. Because you have an area up here, which we could test into. But yeah, I always find it difficult when you're selling the lows, because you want to sell when price retests into a zone after fully breaking structure. It's like I wouldn't buy at the highs here. I want to wait for a retest after breaking structure to buy. So I personally wouldn't sell the lows, especially as there's no consolidation break. But yeah. Okay guys, so looking to end the stream now. I've been live for 3 hours. It's good market talk. Thanks Dylan for the support from Puerto Rico. More of these live streams, definitely. Perhaps Monday might be live, ready for some good trading to start next week, hopefully. And thanks to everybody who subscribed and who's been chatting. Hope you all have a good weekend, and we'll be ready to trade next week. Hopefully we can start next week very nicely, make some good prop firm profits, pass the E8 challenge. That is the ultimate goal. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next stream.